Tony Pauline of Pro Football Network says that the word in league circles is the Jets are down to use their 10th overall pick to get Deebo, which I think, of course they are. Like, I don't think, even though that value is in line with some of what the other values were, like for Tyreek and for Diggs, that would be an easy trade for me if I'm the Jets. The 10th overall pick for Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I mean, well, to me, if I'm John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, that's an immediate no. The 10th overall pick in a bad draft, like, the draft changes year to year. You know, the 10th pick, there's always a number 10th pick, right? Every single season, you know, April, whatever the date is on a given draft, the 27th, 28th, someone drafts 10th. But that 10th value, well, on the chart never changes, or maybe it gets updated. But given who's in the draft impacts the value of that pick. Last year's draft was fucking loaded. Had a bunch of quarterbacks who were going to go high. It had a bunch of really good position players. Well, when quarterbacks went high, 3 in the top 3 picks, that pushed back every single player, right? Jamar Chase in some drafts might go 3. You know, Kyle Pitts ended up going 4. Hell, in a normal draft, he might go 2. Kyle Pitts might go 1 in this draft. Micah Parsons, and part of it was some of those guys didn't play. Like, those guys would go, Micah Parsons ended up going 11 or 12. I mean, it's just part of the draft.
The 2020 draft was loaded too, the year before.
It feels like we've had back to like several loaded drafts in a row now. So that's not enough.
Like, Justin Herbert would be the number 1 pick in this draft, and that's not revisionist history. Herbert, based on the way we thought about him in 2020, where people had a lot of questions about him, he went 6th in a draft with Burrow and Chase Young and Tua, right? He'd go 1 or 2 in this draft. He would not go past 2, Herbert, in this draft. And again, in your 2020 brain.
Yeah. So
not even what we know about him now.
To me, that plays a huge role. Part of the 10th pick is no quarterbacks. I would say about 99% are going to go in the top 10, meaning that all the sweet position players are going to go faster off the board. Because if I told you 2 quarterbacks are going to go off, that means at minimum, the 8th best position player, right? Because 2 plus 7 you'd have, no matter, you know, even if every single person had universal the same grades on guys, would be there. But that's not the case here. So to me, not only is 10 not enough, they would have to include one of the second rounders and then something the following year if I was going to trade him, which, again, my stance is simple. I'm not trading him. Now, does 10, 35, or 38? Ultimately, I'd take 38 if I got the following year's 1. And everyone's response that's not a 49er guy would be like, that's insane. How would you get? I understand. Like, I would not do that deal if I'm the Jets. But if I'm the Niners, I have no problem playing hardball. I'm in control. So if I don't get 10, 38, and next year's, I might end up doing it for a second, but I would, my negotiation would start at a 1. It's just no. You do. Well, you want Deebo Samuel? He's on my team. No.
I know what Tyreek and Devontae got traded for. Who's a better player right now? Deebo Samuel or Jamal Adams when he got traded 2 years ago for 2 1s and a third, and like a receiver.
I thought Jamal was 2 1s and a 2.
I think there might have been I think the Seahawks also sent like a player and a receiver and a 4th round pick back with them or something.
Maybe I kind of forget that. I know that Khalil was the 2 1s and the pick swap, so that ended up being 2 1s and a third. Jalen Ramsey's was 2 1s and a 2. Jamal was definitely 2 1s.
Yeah, Bradley McDougald.
So it was 2 1s, a player and a third.
Yeah, for Bradley McDougald. Bradley McDougald, the Jets traded Jamal Adams and a 4th for a player, 2 1s, and a 3.
Gotcha.
So who's a better player, Deebo or Jamal Adams then?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even close. The other thing is the Jets.
Like, my point is, I don't want to hear about all these draft comps all the time. Like, all these picks are different. These players are different. The situations are different. Sorry, go
ahead. The Jets, if you want them, that's what it's going to cost. If not, we'll keep them. And again, even if I told you 10, 38, and next year's 1, which is a shitload because the Jets might suck and the next year's draft's going to be really good. It's not inconceivable if Zach Wilson got hurt, that pick could be like 2. All of a sudden, you got like Will Anderson on your team or something. You know, Who knows?
And also, how much do you think he's going to take a hard line and make it really difficult to come back, right? How much is it going to cost to pay him? Like, these are all factors.
Would you do this? let's say they're like, instead of 10, give us 35, 38 in next year's 1. So you get Deebo Samuel with those 2 twos, and we get your next year's 1. It's a bigger picture move.
I would imagine. I know the draft value, the trade value says that's a good trade for the 49ers, right? I just have a hard time. I keep going. The thing I get stuck on, and maybe I'm just stuck on it, need to get unstuck, is you've got this guy Trey Lance, who you spent you've invested so much in him, and he already sat for a year, and Deebo Samuel on the team or Deebo Samuel not on the team, I think makes a big difference for Trey Lance's ability to win right away. But I
think we both agree we're of the stance you do not trade him. But if you're going to,
what I'm trying to come to terms
why
with
10 and not 35, 38, right?
Yeah, I'm not taking just 10. What I'm saying is what I'm trying to come to terms with is take a step back and go, I understand we're talking about value here, right? Like 2 twos and a 1 is value. We'll talk about the Deebo or the Tyree. But I just think he's so important to your team. And specifically, he's an investment in Trey Lance. But I think there's a lot of people on the chats like Sandor, 35 and 38 next year's 1. I do that all day. Like, I think that is value. And if you're not getting it, you're not getting it. Like, then you're not trading them. But it takes a lot more than 10 to get me to think about it.
Yeah. And I think a huge element is the draft. It's just not a loaded draft.
Would you agree, though, or is it fair to say it does feel like the receivers this receiver group does have a lot of potential in it, right?
But there's multiple receivers. There are 2 tiers, though, right? I think they're the 2 Ohio State guys, and then the next group.
You don't think it's Drake London and one and
depends who you talk to. I know people that love Drake London. I know people that think he's sluggish and slow.
Yeah.
I know people that think he's probably more pick 25 to 35 range, and I know some people that think he'll go in the top 12. I think he's a true eye of a beholder. There is no disagreement on the 2 cats from Ohio State. I heard DJ saying this, and I do think it makes sense. He said, do not be shocked if Olave goes over Garrett Wilson, just because we've seen the last several years that sometimes people like Jalen Waddle wasn't going to go that high. He ended up going 6th. The year that it was CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy. Which guy's going to go in the top 10? Ruggs went first. Like Olave, if you're viewed as a 4-2-8 guy or whatever he's viewed, even though Garrett Wilson feels like a can't miss. So my point is, if you're the Niners, the good part about if you are open to trading him, you've known about this, and Kyle and company have done true deep, because otherwise, why would they have spent any time watching Olave and Garrett Wilson, right?
Yeah.
During this period of time. They wouldn't have. They would have spent more time watching our guy, Khalil from Boise State, guys, 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounders. Wouldn't you be shocked if over the last, and who knows how long they've truly known about it? Because anytime you'd be like, Niners have known about this for a week. I'm sure they haven't known about it for a couple weeks. That Kyle has done a deep dive on just different groups of players. It might even include pass rush. It's like, what is the group of cluster guys we get at the 10th pick? Is it worth it? Also with pick 38, right?
Yeah.
And Adam Peters. What do we, if we could get there 1 next year, how good is next year's draft? Like you're balancing a lot of variables here, right? Because the one thing you would say that if they got 10, 38, let's just say next year's 2. Say they got 10, 38 in next year's 2. Just as a godfather, like they're just like, okay, we'll trade them. You are getting cheap labor for a team that does. I mean, Bosa's about to get a huge contract, and it gives you even more wiggle room the next couple years. Again, you have to hit on these picks.
If you nail the pick, it's great. Yeah.
Resets your whole team, kind of, right?
It's if you nail the pick, it's a game. It's Jordan Poole. I mean,
that's where like 35, 38, and 1, the pressure on those 2 picks would be high. Can you imagine if you hit on both? Let's say you hit a triple on one and just like a stand-up double on the other. You just got 2 really good players, so cheap for the next 3 years.
And it's easy. I think it's pretty easy to talk it, right? Where you go, Deebo just had no way he replicates that level of success again. He's going to be more expensive. All right, I start a few comments here that I want to rattle back through here. Salvador says Jimmy, Deebo, and a 4th for Christian McCaffrey and a 1. So McCaffrey and a 1, and you got to send your 4. I don't think McCaffrey. To me, I like Christian McCaffrey. I'm rooting for him, but he's been hurt a lot, and he's had his best year in all likelihood, right?
And doesn't he make some big cash?
Makes a lot of money, and Jimmy's worth a 3 all by himself. So Jerry says, "Thank you, Jerry. Get rid of Deebo and let the Trey Lance era begin." I mean, you don't have to let Deebo go to let the Trey Lance era begin, though, I would say. But
what do you think? What do you think Andy said when the Patrick Mahomes era? He's like, let's just start the Patrick Mahomes era and get rid of Kelsey or Hill, or he's like, let's just include them all together and all be friends.
But I do think this is like people are, now again, Deebo comes back, scores a 26-yard touchdown on a handoff, and everyone starts cheering for him. So I don't.
Let's start the Justin Herbert era and let Mike Williams walk, and let's cut Keenan Allen. Or do you just keep every group together? Is that kind of the point?
Yeah, I think the era is somewhat Deebo, not dependent, but the Trey Lance era starts faster with Deebo Samuel lined up next to him in the backfield. Javier Vega says, do we think that lunch with McDaniel had anything to do with it? The lunch was prior to the Tyreek Hill trade. McDaniel spilled Kyle's plans to Deebo. So is Javi saying he would have tried to get Deebo before Tyreek?
I listen, business is cutthroat and you never trust anybody, I guess. But Mike McDaniels owes a lot of shit to Kyle Shanahan. I mean, I watched Mike McDaniel's introductory press conference. Like, it's not just Kyle, it's the family. Like, his dad had to okay it. He stuck by him at some pretty low moments of the guy's life.
Yep.
I would be a little surprised if it was like recruiting, like the moment you left the program, you start backstabbing them with some negative recruiting type deal. And again, I guess at the time of the lunch, they didn't have Tyreek Hill, but he's not even saying that. But
what he's saying is,
I'm gonna give Mike the benefit of the doubt that he wasn't totally fucking him.
Yeah, I give Mike that. Absolutely, I give him that benefit of the doubt, but I also don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that it's just like, man, it'd be great to work together again. I'm not even saying Mike says that necessarily. Maybe Deebo says it. Man, it'd be great to work with you again. Man, I'd love to have you, Deebo. If it ever, you know what I mean? Like, that's not an unnatural conversation. There's a way to have that conversation where it's not backstabbing Kyle, right?
What's not inconceivable?
2 drafts in a row, Kyle potential beef with former friend. Matt LaFleur.
Well, we don't. This beef, that beef was public. This one's not out.
No, I know. I'm kidding.
Not inconceivable that once we have a finish to this, whether he stays, goes, signs a contract, whatever, that it comes out that Miami sniffed around before the Tyreek Hill thing came about.
Yeah, that Mike McDaniel put in a call the same way Kyle put in a call about Aaron Rodgers. Hey, honestly, Mike, he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, Mike wouldn't even have to do it. Just have the GM do it, right? What would it take? You guys going to sign Deebo? Because if not, we'll give you your pick back in next year's one. But again, 29, the problem is for Miami, they didn't have the juice. Like, the only pick, and you could probably throw the Texans in here too, like 10 and 13, just perk your ears up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the shitty draft, it doesn't do as much for me.
Jamison Williams, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, 2 of them will be there at 10. I do think
one guy's a torn ACL.
Yeah.
Could you take a guy with a torn ACL at 10, no matter how good the guy is?
I mean, did Todd Gurley have a torn ACL when they drafted him?
Yes. Worked out pretty damn well for like 3 years, right? This guy's good. But that'd be pretty nuts. Trading Deebo and then taking a guy with a torn ACL after the history of the franchise with torn ACL guys. Hey, guys. I can't. That's a bad Bulky.
Oh, yeah. How does Bulky go? It's been a while since I've heard Bulky. I can't remember how the Bulky goes.
Well, you know how he loves it? No one does it. He's in Jacksonville. No one even hears him talk anymore. He flies very under the radar.
Chad says, I have a legitimate question. After all the things Deebo has done this offseason, how do you trust paying him $25 million? He hasn't shown that much maturity before he got paid. I do think that's a legitimate question, Chad, but
this is where I go back to my love-hate relationship, because you need it to get your information now, because I'm not going to read a newspaper, and they'd be way behind anyway. What has Deebo really done? That'd be my question. What has he truly done besides told Jeff Darlington I want to trade? Other than that, like, he didn't do. He was just at a club live. A lot of people were out and about.
Yeah, the club thing all over
America.
I think the
mom video, that's not him filming.
No. I think saying you want to trade, not saying why you want to trade, and then saying the reporters are all lying, right? I think that's probably. Yeah, I mean, I think
I'll give you that.
I don't think it's unfair. I don't think it's unfair to say that about him.
I don't think a lot of guys, though, when they ask for a trade, I don't know the last time. I guess Jalen Ramsey did. Hasn't happened. Basketball happens a lot. Yeah, I mean, do people really just like give a note page of their true demands, like why they want out? I mean, Rodgers did it last year. No one had people like, what are you talking about?
Well,
bro?
I think part of the question we don't know is what do the Niners know? Like Devontae Adams didn't do anything publicly, but however he communicated it to the Packers were clear that he wasn't coming back, right?
Yeah.
Like does Kyle Shanahan
now part of it too was they had offered him a contract. He was pissed off.
IG scrub?
Oh,
that's true. The contract offer.
I also, the IG scrub to me is a little generational.
But I think if in the category of mature or immature, I wouldn't call it mature if we're debating that. Not that I think you and I both don't really care about it, but.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not defending him on the IG scrub. I think it's really stupid, but there are a ton of guys. Like I've never heard anything like AJ Brown's insecure or not insecure, but immature. He did it. Like, could that just be a company-wide mandate of like the go-to move?
Could be the company.
Which I'd argue is a stupid idea, but it's like, in fairness to Kyler, his scrub has aged a little bit better. A bunch of people do it. He's not alone. Like it is, maybe he set the tone for everybody, but it's a move now. Like several people have instituted it, guy.
So maybe it is part of the CAA handbook, holdout handbook.
I hate feeling like the old guy, but I really put zero stock into that. Like I don't factor in scrubbing to maturity. Like I factored in Kyler Murray, immature, the way people literally talk about him, the way he carries himself on the field. Like his actions prove that. I don't even know if I truly put a scrub in quote unquote actions. I can say it's stupid or not, which I do believe it's stupid, but it's like, it feels like my parents used to think skateboarding was stupid, and then snowboarding was stupid, and then video games were stupid. I mean, things just change.
You could have been you could have been
Tony
Hawk.
Couldn't have been any of those, but my point is, anything that you think stupid becomes much more normalized later in time. Like I would imagine, like 10 years scrubbing stuff on the internet to like try to make your point.
I agree with that, but I can 100% understand why that would be interpreted as in the category of diva behavior. That's all.
I guess my ultimate point on Deebo is I think it feels like he's done a lot more than he's actually done. And this is where I'm ready for this thing to like kind of take the next step or not, because I don't think he's doing that much, but it feels like he's doing a lot. He's not doing anything.
I can't give him that. We just named him. Like I said, I think the IG scrub is stupid, but I do think it falls into that category. It doesn't fall in the category of doing nothing. Put it that way, because and here's why: because you know the reaction it's going to create, and you want that reaction.
Yeah, I mean, to me, and he did
ultimately what I would say, John. That's playing games, is what that is, which is fine. Like that's all of this stuff is, but that's what it is. I mean, let's not pretend like it's not that.
And if I wanted to support him, what if he's like, well, you should have seen the numbers fucking the Niners offered me. They're playing games. Like, it's a two-way street.
Yeah, but there's a difference between playing games publicly and playing games, as part of a negotiation. And I'm not upset by it. I don't have a problem with it. But you're asking what has he done that feels that I would put that in that category. Because again, you know the reaction you're creating. What you're going to get with it.
Yeah,
like Kyler just did it. We saw it.
Yeah, but Kyler did that crazy printout from the agent, right? Which is
yeah. They're not the same. I'm not saying they're the same.
To me, his number one action is that AJ Brown has not done is he like clearly told Jeff Darlington, I want to trade. Like that is it's untrumpable, right? Like that is the peak of the action.
Also, AJ just did the scrub, and no videos of AJ's mom are popping up anywhere. Talking on
part of it though is like his AJ brothers. Who knows? His brother clearly keeps.
Yeah, I'm just saying there is a lot going on. There's a lot of smoke coming from a lot of places. It's not his fault the guy held up the sign at the book club. I agree. There's nothing to do with
my thing. Like that I would say that's a pretty thing that like probably went pretty viral all over Instagram. A lot of people in America on Instagram. He had nothing to do with that.
No,
I think that's when this type of stuff happens. My point is it can truly feel like more. Now I'll give Kyler credit. Like the Baker Mayfield got a statue that looks nothing like him yesterday, and it was Alumni Day at Oklahoma. It did just feel kind of Kyler was like everyone was there. It felt a little normal. Now you could probably argue it's like the equivalent of like the Masters. It's a pretty controlled environment for all those guys. Like it's not like people are running up like Kyler, break it down. It's like no one's fucking with anybody. Yeah. I mean, it was Baker Mayfield Day. He's literally on a team that doesn't want him. Kind of weird.